What's up, everybody? Hope you're having a good weekend. Thank you for watching this video if you are watching it. This is the year in wrestling 1996 part 4 of my series of videos where I talk about the year in wrestling every single year up until 2015. First, I'm going to talk about some news items about 96 before I talk about the July In Your House pay-per-view. July 13th, Pitbull number 1. Pitbull 1, Gary Wolf, I believe was his name, breaks his neck in a match with Shane Douglas. He breaks his neck. I think it was an accident. Shane Douglas power drove or DDT'd him on the TV title belt, and it was an accident, and he broke his neck. I don't think it was on purpose at all, but in an ECW documentary, I think it was called Forever Hardcore, the documentary. I own it on DVD. I think that's the name of it. Anyways, Gary Wolf says that Shane Douglas is full of shit when he said that he didn't break his neck on purpose or that he wasn't safe enough. And so Gary Wolf doesn't agree that it was an accident. He thinks Shane Douglas did it on purpose. For what reason, I don't know. I guess he thought he did it on purpose to get more heat from the ECW crowd. I don't think that's why it happened. He just broke his neck because it was an accident, in my opinion. And my goddamn cat's crying for some reason. So that was July 13th. Pitbull 1 breaks his neck. And he would return to ECW later on, maybe a couple weeks later, and he was in a halo. They had put a halo on his head. July 22nd, on an edition of Monday Night Raw, Ahmed Johnson gets attacked by Farouk and suffers a ruptured kidney after getting attacked, and he was the newly crowned Intercontinental Champion, was Ahmed Johnson, and after getting attacked and suffering the injury of the ruptured kidney, he would have to be out of action for a couple months. I don't think he'd even return anymore in 96. I don't think he would return until the Royal Rumble 97. So Ahmed Johnson gets injured and has to get stripped of his Intercontinental title, and they would start an Intercontinental Championship title tournament to crown a new IC champ. August 7th, 96, Jushin Thunder Liger holds a press conference to announce that doctors have discovered a tumor in his brain. Test results later revealed that the tumor had been removed, and Jushin Liger would be able to return to in-ring action. So very scary that they found a brain tumor in Jushin Liger's brain, but very glad they got rid of it and took it out, and that he's still alive and he's still healthy to this day. He'll be wrestling at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, Jushin Liger's first ever WWE live event that he'll be working for the WWE. So that's big news, and I'm excited about it. Jushin Liger will be live on the WWE Network the night before SummerSlam. August 19th, a tournament for the Intercontinental Championship begins after Ahmed Johnson is stripped of the belt due to injuries. Mark Merrill, they were calling him the Wild Man. Mark Merrill would go on to win the Intercontinental Championship Battle Royal. And I think Triple H Hunter Hearst Helmsley was in that finals of the tournament to crown a new Intercontinental Champion. I think Hunter Hearst Helmsley lost to Mark Merrill in that match. So that's all the news I got so far about 96. I'll have a little bit more news items coming up. First, I'm going to talk about first pay-per-view I'm going to talk about is In Your House. I believe it's called International Incident. Happened July 21st, 96 from Vancouver, British Columbia. The matches were Justin Hawk Bradshaw defeated Savio Vega after his manager Zebekiah interfered, and his manager was Zeb Coulter. I don't know where Zeb Coulter is anymore. Looks like he won't be returning to the WWE anytime soon. I think his contract ran out and they didn't offer him a new contract. So Bradshaw defeats Savio Vega. Up next, Mankind defeated Henry Godwin. Sounds boring. This was a pretty boring pay-per-view event. Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin defeated Mark Merrill. Skip and Zip defeated the World Tag Team Champions, the Smoking Guns, in a non-title match. The Undertaker would wrestle to a no contest with Goldust when Mankind interfered. And the main event was a 6-man tag match. You had Camp, Cornette, Owen Hart, Vader, and Davey Boy Smith defeating the team of Ahmed Johnson, Shawn Michaels, and Psycho Sid. And Psycho Sid was replacing the Ultimate Warrior in this match because the Warrior was fired by the WWF. So Sid came back to the WWF and took the Warrior's place in the main event. And after Vader pinned Shawn Michaels, he defeated and pinned the champion Shawn Michaels in the 6-man tag. It was a non-title match. Obviously, you don't put the world title on the line in a 6-man tag. Vader would defeat the champion Shawn Michaels, and that would set up Vader getting a title shot at SummerSlam 96. And Jim Cornette did interfere in this main event, but his team won, so good thing he interfered. It helped his team win. Owen, Davey Boy, and Vader win the main event at In Your House International Incident, the July WWF July 96 pay-per-view. Up next, I'm going to talk about WCW Hog Wild. Took place in August, I believe. August 10th from Sturgis at the annual Biker Fest in Sturgis, South Dakota. It was very annoying hearing all the bikes. They're revving their engines and revving their motors. It was just very annoying and stupid to hear all those motorcycles make noise. During wrestling matches, it was just very annoying and stupid to have bikers at the show. And I'm sure they didn't pay for any tickets. They probably all got in free because WCW was very stupid at the time and they weren't making much of a profit in 96. They're letting bikers in for free to see a free pay-per-view, and the bikers didn't even give a damn about watching the pay-per-view. The bikers are probably just there to get drunk and rev their engines like a bunch of idiots. Anyways, Hog Wild took place on August 10th, as I said. And this was, I think, a pre-show match. Cruiserweight champion Rey Mysterio Jr. defeated Ultimo Dragon, and they had a great match. They always worked really well together. Scott Norton defeated Ice Train by submission. Nobody cared. Medusa defeated Bull Nakano. Pretty good, decent women's match. And WCW didn't really have a women's division. They tried, and it didn't really work, and they stopped using the women on television, basically. So Medusa defeats Bull Nakano. Chris Benoit defeated Dean Malenko after a woman interfered, and that was a very good match. Benoit and Malenko, I think they went about 30 plus minutes. It was very good. World Tag Team Champions Harlem Heat defeated Rick and Scott Steiner. It was a good tag match, but the crowd was acting stupid, and when Harlem Heat came out, they just kept revving their engines like they were trying to irritate Harlem Heat. They're probably a bunch of racist bikers because they're all white people. So who the hell? They're probably drunk and racist, and they're revving their engines like a bunch of retards during Harlem Heat in the ring and during their entrance. So good to see Harlem Heat get a win over the Steiners. U.S. Champion Nature Boy Ric Flair defeated Eddie Guerrero by submission, and this was a very good match. It wasn't that great, but it was good, and I really enjoyed it. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, the Outsiders, teaming up for the first time in a tag team match where they didn't have a third guy with them. So the Outsiders defeat the team of Lex Luger and Sting. And then the main event was Hulk Hogan challenging Hollywood. Hulk Hogan challenging the Giant for the WCW World title. And Hulk Hogan would defeat the Giant for the WCW World Championship. And after it, they had Brutus Beefcake in the ring with Hogan. And he looked like a totally different guy. He had really long hair, and he looked homeless. Anyways, the NWO came down. The Outsiders came down, Hall and Nash, and they attacked Brutus Beefcake along with Hogan. And then the NWO and Hollywood Hogan and Hall and Nash spray painted the WCW World title. They spray painted NWO on the world title in black spray paint. That was a moment in history, and WCW will never forget. I mean, they really disrespected the world title, but that's what the NWO did. They didn't care about tradition. They didn't care about disrespecting the legends in history, because they were a group of gang thugs, and the NWO wanted to take over WCW, so they basically made the WCW title belt into their own belt. They should have just changed the name of it and called it the NWO belt, because that's what it was for about a year and a half. It wasn't really the WCW title until Sting won it at Starrcade 97 again. So that was Hog Wild. Good stuff that I enjoyed on Hog Wild was Ray against Ultimo Dragon. Flair and Eddie. Steiners and Harlem Heat was good. Benoit and Malenko was good. And it was good to see Hulk Hogan win the world title, because the NWO needed that world title as a group to get the NWO more over as a heel faction. So it was good to see Hollywood Hogan win the world title. It was not a great match at all between the Giant and Hogan. It just was not a good match. But Hog Wild was a pretty good pay-per-view. Now, after Hog Wild, before I talk about SummerSlam 96, I'm going to talk about some news items happened August 19th. I think this was a week after Hog Wild on Nitro, August 19th. Ted DiBiase makes his first WCW Nitro appearance when he sits at ringside to observe the matches. He would later reveal himself to be the money man of the NWO. I guess he secretly, storyline-wise, he was secretly giving the NWO money to take over and run things. So that made a lot of sense, bringing in Ted DiBiase and have him joining the NWO. September 2nd, the Giant shocks the WCW on Nitro by joining the NWO just 23 days after losing the WCW World title to Hollywood Hulk Hogan. So that was shocking, and the fans loved it in the arena. And after the Giant turned, they threw all the trash and garbage in the ring again at the NWO. And the NWO had a lot of fucking heat in '96 when the Giant joined. And other times they threw trash in the ring. They did it because they hated the NWO. But the NWO were also fan favorites with a lot of fans. I'm sure that NWO t-shirt sold millions and millions of shirts and made a lot of money in merchandise for WCW. I bought an NWO shirt in '98, and I still have it to this day. But that NWO shirt, the design, the look of it was fucking awesome. Great design, great shirt. It's right up there with the Austin 316 shirt as probably two of the best shirts ever created for wrestling fans. September 6th, Monday night, after the Giant joined the NWO on Raw, September 6th, Jim Ross confuses everyone when he announces in a special Friday edition of Raw that Razor Ramon and Diesel are going to return to the WWF. Nobody believed this, and if you did, you were stupid. And he says that Razor and Diesel have been negotiating to return to the WWF. And then Kevin Nash in WCW, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall deny that they are returning to the WWF. And because of Jim Ross saying this, and because WWF was in a war with WCW, you had WCW so afraid and scared that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were going to leave WCW, go back to the WWF, that they gave them new contracts. And they put the money up in their contracts so they would not leave and jump. So you had WCW pay Scott Hall and Kevin Nash between $600,000 and or $1 million each, or $600,000 each to sign a new contract, just because WCW was scared and believed that they were leaving to go back to the WWF. So very stupid move. WCW was very paranoid and just ran business very stupidly. Anyways, because of Jim Ross saying that on Raw, and it was a storyline, it wasn't even real, that Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were going to return as Diesel and Razor. Then you had paranoid WCW give them new contracts, and then Hall and Nash made even more money than their original contracts. Just because they were paranoid. It was very stupid of them to do that. That was September 6th when Jim Ross announced that. September 9th, millions of Nitro viewers, what appears to be Sting attacking Lex Luger and driving off in a limousine with the NWO Later it'd be revealed that it was an NWO fake Sting that was playing the part of the real Sting just to confuse the fans and attack Lex Luger. And then every WCW fan thought that Sting turned his back on all the fans and joined the NWO. That was a very, very good storyline to do. Very good idea to have a guy that pretty much looked like Sting, looked very similar to Sting, had the same haircut, same hairdo, same hair color, same body build, probably was the same height, same weight. The guy looked like Sting, but he was not Sting. He was some guy playing Sting, but he really looked like him. So that was just very great storyline to involve a fake Sting and have him join the NWO to confuse every fan and basically to play every fan. Just great. That was great stuff. But obviously it wasn't the real Sting attacking Lex Luger. That was September 9th, 96, where you had the fake Sting attack Lex Luger in a parking lot. And then on us, I think it was the next week, I think it was a September Nitro, maybe it was the end of August, but I think it was in September. Sting does a promo on Nitro in the ring and says that he is WCW and that he's given everything he has to WCW and he's basically done, and that he didn't attack Lex Luger, that he wouldn't do that, and he was basically explaining himself that he did not turn his back on WCW and he's not NWO. And that was September 96. And then Sting even says, before the promo ends, he says, I guess now I'm a free agent, or something like that. And then he says, with Sting, you got to know that nothing's for sure. And then he drops a mic and walks out of the arena, and we never hear Sting talk again. He doesn't say another word. He doesn't speak another word once from September 96 until January 98. He does not talk, and that was just a Sting perfected that crow gimmick. It was perfection how he played it. Coming down through the crowd, not talking. All you had to do was look in the man's eyes. Sting didn't have to talk. When he played the crow gimmick, he did not have to speak to get over. All he had to do was talk, and he did talk with his eyes. If you looked at his eyes and how he looked in his eyes. So that was just a fantastic character when Sting turned and went to and became the Crow Sting. Now I'm going to talk about WWF SummerSlam 96. SummerSlam 96 took place August 18th, 96 from Cleveland, Ohio. First pre-show match was Stone Cold Steve Austin defeating Yokozuna in 1 minute 51 seconds. Yokozuna was going to do a banzai drop. He missed. Just checking the time on this video. He missed a banzai drop because the top rope snapped when he was holding it. I guess they're saying Yoko was too obese and too overweight that the top rope gave out on Yokozuna, so he falls on his ass, falls on his back after the top rope snaps, and Stone Cold Steve Austin picks his leg up and pins him 1, 2, 3. And after SummerSlam 96, WWF would not use Yokozuna much at all. Going into 97, they didn't use him at all. I guess they took him off television and told him to lose some weight and get healthier, because he looked really obese, like he was about to have a heart attack. And he wouldn't be on any more pay-per-views after SummerSlam 96 until he appeared at Survivor Series 96. But that was it. That was his last WWF pay-per-view appearance ever. Was Survivor Series 96, I believe. So pay-per-view matches now. Owen Hart defeated Savio Vega. World Tag Team Champions, the Smoking Guns, defeat Skip and Zip. The new Rockers. Leaf Cassidy and Marty Jannetty. And they defeat the Godwins in a fatal 4-way tag team title match. So the Smoking Guns retain. Psycho Sid defeats Davey Boy Smith. Goldust defeats Mark Merrill. Jerry the King Lawler defeats Jake the Snake Roberts after hitting him with a bottle of alcohol. Jerry Lawler is really ripping Jake the Snake on the microphone and bringing up his past alcohol issues and his alcohol problem. He kept ripping him every chance he got on the mic, on Raws, on SummerSlam. He ripped him on the mic, was calling him an alcoholic, calling him a drunk, stuff like that. Mankind defeats The Undertaker in the first ever Boiler Room Brawl match. It was epic. It was legendary. I really enjoyed it. And that match went 26 minutes and 20 seconds. Very long match. And at the end, The Undertaker was looking for support from Paul Bearer. He was on one knee, bowing to Paul Bearer in the urn. And then Paul Bearer lifts the urn up, hits The Undertaker over the head with it, and turns on The Undertaker. That was pretty damn shocking. I didn't expect to see that. So Paul Bearer turns on The Undertaker after being with him from 91 up until 96. So he's with him at least 5 years almost, or over 5 years. And then Paul Bearer would go on to manage Mankind, and later on in 97, Vader. In the main event after the Boiler Room Brawl match, which was, as I said, it was great, and it was just brutal. You had Mick Foley take a spot off the ring apron where he fell back and landed back first, head first on the concrete floor. They beat the hell out of each other in that match. They beat the crap out of each other in the Boiler Room Brawl. When they came out of it, they beat the hell out of each other in the hallways, backstage, and then into the arena. It was a brutal match, and it was fun to watch. The main event was the WWF Championship on the line. Shawn Michaels defending against Vader. And Vader had beaten Shawn Michaels by countout. But Jim Cornette got the match restarted. And then he beat him by countout and then by disqualification. But both times Jim Cornette, Vader's manager, demanded the match be restarted. And then Shawn Michaels, I believe, super kicks Vader and defeats him and retains the WWF Championship. As I have said in other videos, I think Vader should have won the title, but Shawn Michaels was difficult to deal with backstage at the time, so I'm sure he put up a fight, and he did not want a job to Vader, and he did not. He got his way, and he didn't. So Shawn Michaels retains at SummerSlam 96. SummerSlam 96 wasn't that good of a show. The only matches that were worth watching was the Boiler Room Brawl and Shawn Michaels versus Vader. That's it. In Your House, number 10, took place September 22nd, 96, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, home of ECW. It was called In Your House Mind Games. Pre-show match, you had Savio Vega defeat Marty Jannetty. Jake the Snake defeated Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Farouk defeated Mark Merrill. And these were, and Psycho Sid, I guess this was a pre-show match. Psycho Sid defeated Big Van Vader, not Big Van Vader, just Vader. I keep calling him Big Van Vader because that's what he was known as in WCW, but he was just Vader. So Psycho Sid defeats Vader to become the new #1 contender for Shawn Michaels' world title, and Sid would get that title shot at Survivor Series 96. So Sid defeats Vader. Pay-per-view matches. Savio Vega defeats Justin Hawk Bradshaw in a strap match. Jose Lothario, Shawn Michaels, the guy that trained Shawn Michaels, his mentor, Jose Lothario defeats Jim Cornette. Davey Boy Smith and Owen Hart defeat the World Tag Team Champions, the Smoking Guns, to win the tag team titles. Mark Henry defeats in Mark Henry's WWF pay-per-view wrestling debut 18 years ago almost, or 19 years ago. Mark Henry made his WWF debut 19 years ago almost, because it's close to September 22nd, 96. Mark Henry made his debut. That's almost 19 years ago. And he defeated Jerry the King Lawler. And after you defeat Jerry the King Lawler, Mark Henry would not show up again on television until the summer of 97. When, or maybe it was later than 97. It was either summer 97 or late 97. Mark Henry would show up again on Raws and join the Nation of Domination. Going into 98, going into 98 or 97, Mark Henry joined the Nation of Domination, and going into 98, I believe he's still in the Nation. Or maybe he was just a baby face in 98, and then he joined the Nation in 98. I can't remember. But Mark Henry needed a lot more training. After he made his debut, he needed a lot more training, so good thing they took him off television for a pretty long time. The Undertaker continuing his feud with Mankind, not with Mankind. Anyways, Undertaker defeated Goldust. I thought he was against Mankind, but he's not. That's in October, when he was buried alive. Undertaker defeats Goldust. World Championship on the line. Shawn Michaels defending against Mankind. And he would defeat Mankind by disqualification to retain the WWF Championship. And Mankind and Shawn Michaels had a very good match. It was definitely one of the matches of the year in 96 in the WWF. So that was In Your House, Mind Games from September 96. Now I'm going to talk about WCW Fall Brawl pay-per-view event from September 96. Fall Brawl 96 took place on September 15th from Western Salem, North Carolina. DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, defeated Chavo Guerrero Jr. And they had a pretty decent match. Ice Train, again, defeated Scott Norton in a submission match. Nobody cared about this feud. It was god-awful, and just nobody cared. I know they were a tag team before. They were called Fire and Ice, but nobody cared. Nobody cared about seeing them feud either. At least I didn't care. Up next, Conan defeated Juventud Guerrero. Chris Benoit defeated Chris Jericho. Cruiserweight champion Rey Mysterio Jr. defeated Super Calo. And Rey did a double springboard His finisher, double springboard into the Hurricanrana pinfall. 1, 2, 3, Rey retains. And I believe that was Super Calos and Chavos and Juventud Guerrero's WCW pay-per-view debuts. World Tag Team Champions Harlem Heat defeated the Nasty Boys to retain the tag titles. The Giant defeated the Macho Man Randy Savage. And after that match, you had Miss Elizabeth come out to basically jump on top of Macho Man. He was laid out in the middle of the ring. Miss Elizabeth climbs on top of Macho Man trying to get the NWO. Hulk Hogan was there. I think Scott Hall and the Giant or Kevin Nash were also in the ring. Ted DiBiase was probably also there in the ring. They were trying. Miss Elizabeth was trying to basically get the NWO to stop attacking Randy Savage by begging the NWO to stop. And as she was on the ground over Randy Savage, you had Hogan. I think it was Hogan. Spray painted Miss Elizabeth, spray painted her dress, NWO on it. The crowd didn't like that. The NWO had major heat at this time in September 96. They were definitely the top heel group in wrestling. The Nation of Domination and the WWF could not compare to the NWO at all. The NWO had major heat when they were at their best in 96. I mean, I could take the Giant being in the NWO and Six, formerly 1, 2, 3 Kid, and Ted DiBiase, and Eric Bischoff. And then you had Hogan, Hall, and Nash. I could take all those people being in the NWO. But after that, way too many guys started joining, and it just got watered down and really lame. I mean, the NWO was at its best with Hogan, Hall, and Nash. And then they brought in Ted DiBiase. I was okay with that. And I was okay with 1, 2, 3 Kid, and I was okay with the Giant and Bischoff. Because nobody expected Bischoff to join them. So I was okay with those guys in it. But anybody else, like Buff Bagwell, Marcus Bagwell, joined in next, nobody cared. And then too many guys, it seemed like the entire heel roster joined the goddamn NWO. Probably because they didn't want to get their ass beat and job to the NWO. So they thought, I'll just join them. And then you had a major problem going into 97 and 98, or probably in 98, where all the roster and all the baby faces did not want to do jobs to the NWO and basically just get destroyed by the NWO because they're beating the hell out of everybody on the entire roster. So I can understand that, why a lot of baby faces were fed up and didn't want a job to the NWO because it got out of control. It seems like they had like 35 members in the ring towards the end of 97. Like 30 guys were in the NWO, it felt like. Maybe it was more than 30 guys, I don't know. Could have been. And also in late 96, they brought in Virgil. Goddamn Virgil came in and joined the NWO. That made a little bit of sense because Virgil was Ted DiBiase's bodyguard for such a long time. And I'm sure a lot of fans remembered that. So, the Giant defeated Randy Savage, and then the NWO got major heat when they spray painted Miss Elizabeth, and Hogan talked trash to Elizabeth on the mic and ripped her and ripped Randy Savage. And then Hogan and Giant spit right into the camera to get even more heat, to look like more filthy scumbags and dirty heels. The main event of Fall Brawl was the War Games match. And this was a pretty awesome War Games. You had the NWO taking on Team WCW team of the Four Horsemen. Ric Flair, Sting, Lex Luger, Arn Anderson, and Sting. The fake NWO Sting came out and attacked the Four Horsemen, did a couple Stinger splashes on them. And I think the crowd was pretty fooled. They thought it was a real Sting turning on the Horsemen and turning on WCW. You had the commentators play it perfectly. Bobby Heenan, Tony Schiavone, they believed it was Sting, and they were saying how they couldn't believe Sting turned his back on WCW, and they knew he was NWO and all that. And then you had the real Sting come out and beat the crap out of the fake Sting and beat the hell out of him, lay him out. He beat the hell out of Hogan, he beat the hell out of Nash, he beat the hell out of Scott Hall, and then Sting left the War Games match and yelled at Lex Luger something. Can't remember what he yelled at him, but I guess he said, "Do you believe me now? Do you believe me now that I'm WCW?" And then I think he told Luger in WCW or something, he told him to stick it, and then he left because he's pissed. And then the NWO, anyways, they defeated, I believe, Team WCW in the War Games. I'm pretty sure they defeated them. And then after the War Games, you had a brawl breakout between the Horsemen and the NWO near the entranceway. A brawl broke out. You had Flair beating the hell out of Nash and Hogan giving low blows to them. And then Randy Savage runs out to the, comes out and grabs Hogan, throws Hogan in the ring, and then tries to about to beat the crap out of Hogan, and then I think the Giant comes out then and saves Hogan and chokeslams Randy Savage, and that's probably when the NWO, that's probably when Miss Elizabeth came out and they spray painted her on her dress. That's probably when that all happened, was after the War Games match. So that was Fall Brawl. Very entertaining pay-per-view. Very good pay-per-view from WCW. Was Fall Brawl 96. I'll be back to talk about Survivor Series and WWF In Your House, Buried Alive, and Halloween Havoc, and World War III and Survivor Series. And I don't know if I'll make a part 5 or the next video will be part 5. I might have to make a part 6 because I still got a lot of pay-per-views to talk about. Anyways, this was the year in wrestling 1996 part 4. Hope you enjoyed it. I talked about the July 96 WWF pay-per-view. I talked about SummerSlam. I talked about Hog Wild, Fall Brawl, and In Your House Mind Games. That's 5 pay-per-views right there I talked about and discussed. I'll be doing a part 5 on 1996 probably in a couple days. Hope you enjoyed part 4 of the year in wrestling 96 video. Bye for now, everybody.